News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KBNU.
KBNU News Time is 4:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Logan Dental Associates. A couple of weeks ago, what was billed as a Run for Hope to highlight and assist in suicide prevention was held in Wellsville. Hope is at the core of a local organization called Avenues of Hope, who have a bright sunflower as their symbol of hope. On KBNU's For the People program on Tuesday, founder Lisa Mitchell returned to talk about the return of their support classes for those who have lost a loved one to suicide.
We are super excited to bring this into the community. Avenues of Hope is all about mental wellness and suicide prevention, and we really believe that postvention, like a support group for people who've lost ones to suicide, is prevention.
Mitchell explained that's because the more that is learned to think about and talk about suicide in more productive ways, that in itself is a prevention tool.
That is correct. As we are better able to talk about and bring suicide and mental illness into the light instead of having it be kind of a dark and hard conversation, which it is, but the more we talk about it, the easier it's going to become to talk about it.
And she said these support groups are peer-led, and she described what that means.
So peer-led means that all of the facilitators that are running the group have lost someone to suicide. And so we are in our own journeys, maybe where you're at, or maybe a little bit farther on our journeys, but we will be able to connect well with you if you have lost someone to suicide, because we know where you're at.
The first support group starts up on August 3rd and will be held on the first and third Wednesday of every month. You can get more information at avenuesofhope.net. KBNU News Time is 4:06. KBNU weather for tonight. Mostly clear skies tonight, low around 60, and then sunny and hot upper 90s tomorrow. It's been to 92. In fact, it's 92 degrees right now at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry, located at 5th East, 9th North in Logan. Also, their Brigham City location, 1st East and 7th South.
My name is Dr. Brandon Prevey, and I love being a dentist. I work with Drs. Curtis Taylor, Anthony Larson, and Paul Harris. When people ask where our office is, I actually have two answers. First, I spend part of the week at Logan Dental Associates, and then second, I spend the other part at Cherry Creek Dental in Richmond. Both locations are a full-service dental office and can take care of everyone in the family. Call or go online and make your appointment with the office that's most convenient for you. Logan Dental Associates in Logan or Cherry Creek Dental in Richmond.
KBNU News Time is 4:08. Police are looking for a Grantsville father of 5 and new grandfather after he disappeared on Friday. 45-year-old Brian Hayes was last seen by family members after they say he left for work at 7:30 a.m. on July 15th. They said his phone is turned off, so they have no way of getting in touch with him. Authorities believe Hayes traveled to Heber City, so they are focusing the search in that area. The search is underway in remote areas with rugged terrain where Hayes may have traveled to, including the Mirror and Crystal Lake areas. Community members have been joining the search on ATVs to help in any way they can. Hayes is 5 feet 10 inches tall and weighs 350 pounds with a white and gray beard. According to flyers posted on his disappearance, Hayes was wearing a polo shirt and jeans when he was last seen. On Tuesday evening, the family gave an update that they found Hayes' truck abandoned in Ashley National Forest. They have still not found him, but have called in search and rescue. And an annual tradition returned to the streets of Salt Lake City as the week-long celebration of Pioneer Day began Tuesday morning. For the second time while in office, Governor Cox helped lead a herd of longhorns through downtown on his trusty steed, along with his wife, First Lady Abby Cox. Cox grew up on a farm in central Utah and started riding horses around Fairview as a youngster. Pioneer Day festivities in the Days of 47 Rodeo are expected to attract thousands of people from around the state and country to Utah, which is a nice economic bump right in the middle of summer. KBNU News Time is 4:10. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
The newsmakers, the stories. Get it all here. News Talk KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
As the summer's war against weeds and pests rages on, a new bug threat starts hopping around, destroying garden plants and flowers. Luckily, you are ready for them with Logan Extermination's Perimeter Grasshopper Control. It's like a minefield for the minute menace.
Good job, men. Another bug bites the dirt. Let's regroup before the next wave hits.
They do what they are trained to do. Strike terror into termites, bash the bed bugs, and cook the cockroaches. Remember the brave men and women at Logan Extermination. Call 752-8450.
Treatment areas vary. Call for a quote today.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Thursday on This Morning, America's First News. Some economists believe inflation is leading to price fixing. Here are the evidence they point to. Also, tens of millions of us have noticed the heat and probably made complaints about it. We'll define extreme heat and examine the effects of it on the body. And do tattoos help you or hurt you on the job scene? We'll explore. Thursday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
For the people.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cache Republican Party, meeting an executive committee tonight.
With Jason Williams.
And I'm really excited about this next segment. We have two guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
Welcome to KVN News for the People. It is Wednesday, July 20th. I'm Jason Williams. Bill Walter here in the studio as well. And it is time for this month's installment of Speak to the Mayor, a segment we do each month with Logan City Mayor Holly Daines. She's here in the studio with us. You're welcome to join us if you have questions or comments, 753-5868. And Mayor Daines, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Are you enjoying the heat out there?
Oh, my word. It could cool off for all of us. That would be wonderful.
Oh, it is just oppressive heat, but yeah.
I know. I think about our crews that are, doing, the whole month of July, they do chip and seal and, just out in the sun all day long. And it's rough. It really is rough, but they do a great job.
They do, and there's been quite a bit of that I've noticed in Logan. But I have noticed a few roads that one day weren't and the next day were, and I was wondering myself, do you have crews working over, does Logan City have crews working overnight? Or did
no,
I just miss it?
Probably.
I must have just missed it.
And just one item of note for the public, you see the flasher barricades that say no parking this street, and you think, well, nothing's happening today, or they already did the chip and seal, why can't I park here now? They actually do the chip and seal, and then they come back, a few days or sometimes even a week later to do a fog seal coat. So just beware. Because, we don't like to tow people, and generally it's just kind of a courtesy tow around the corner, but please cooperate. And if you see those signs up, again, it may be a few days until they get back to do, the next step, but there is a reason the barricades are still up, so work with us. As
you mentioned, they're already out in the heat all day long. Don't make their lives more difficult than they already are. It's tradition in Utah, it's the construction and the road repair season, and these are key times to get these things done. And some years we have a very short window. This year, likely a long window. It is, it always amazes me the budget that goes into this. This is sort of what I would describe, and most residents probably would agree, as non-debatable spending.
And some people say, we hate chip and seal. Why do you have to do it? But the reason we do it is it saves the taxpayers a lot of money, because it's much easier to do the chip and seal that keeps a road in a good condition.
Sure.
If it really deteriorates enough that you have to rebuild the whole road, it is vastly more expensive. So it's the ounce of prevention, is worth a pound of cure. Just good maintenance and good practices to, and they have a schedule that they rotate through all the roads in the city. So each one within, I think, about, somewhere 5 to 7 years should should get chipped and sealed, and it is a big expense in the budget, but it's
necessary.
proactive maintenance.
Sure. It's, people, I think, would be surprised to see, not just Logan City, but city and county budgets for road maintenance. It's a huge portion of the budget. It's necessary. Like I say, it's not debatable. You have to have the roads, and you have to have, because none of us enjoy potholes or roads in disrepair. But yeah, it's a huge part of running the city each year. I know, it seems, we hear this all the time from listeners. It seems like there's construction everywhere. Something's going up, and that's kind of restricting a road here or there. This isn't something that's going to ever be, it might slow, I guess, but there's never going to be a day when Logan City can say, all right, for the next few years, nothing new. Right? Development's always going to happen.
It is. And again, I'd also just like to thank our motorists that drive, particularly in the northwest section of town. It has been rough there, and we acknowledge that. We've had a number of projects going that have required, closures, and the strategy was, let's finish this project and then open this project. And as you know, sometimes delays happen.
Sure.
Projects take longer, and then we have a project that has to be started because, for instance, we have grant funding that has a certain window of time. And it's like, wow, if we don't start that project now, we won't finish that in time for the deadlines. We've had the railroad issues at that intersection that's driving all of us crazy at 1400 North and 6 West, and we're having some negotiations with the railroad to try and get that open back up again and functioning. But it's been frustrating for all of us, and me as well, and I apologize. It's not our, how we would hope to have run it. But again, the summer construction season is compacted into a very short window in Utah, and when it gets done, it will be great. And 10th North, I'm pleased to say, is almost totally open again. There's one little section that had to be redone because the paving didn't pass inspection. But,
is that what it was?
So that will, like I say, that should be fully open very shortly, and that will be a great improvement. So
that's, I know, this isn't entirely unique to Logan City, but it is a bit of a burden for Logan City that a lot of these, fairly major corridors of traffic each day are not entirely within Logan City's, jurisdiction. Or you can't just go out and say, as the 14th North intersection, there on the west side, it's the railroad's involved. And of course, those following the news know the railroad threw a huge kink in that just recently, which leaves both not just Logan City, but the state even kind of on pause, and as that trickles through the courts. Then you have UDOT that you work with on a lot of roads. And as you've said before, the good relationships make these things happen. But it does mean that, for residents, it's a nice reminder once in a while to say, there are things you'd probably like to do that aren't necessarily something Logan City can just go out and do, right?
Exactly. But, we do have, capital improvement plans that are, plans over 20 years when you have these huge infrastructure projects that cost millions and millions of dollars. And, you're balancing between, for instance, the water fund and the wastewater treatment plant. Those are enterprise funds, and we do collect fees that can help pay for some of the costs. But in the general fund, roads and, those sorts of things, again, it takes long-term planning to do these bigger projects. We have a huge water storage reservoir that's, on tap for the next couple of years that we're designing and implementing, and, millions of gallons, and, probably a $10 to $20 million project. So we do try and plan. We do try and set aside funds and build reserves, and then again, sometimes you do have to bond, and where there's a revenue stream to repay that, that's often a good way to get a project done in a timely manner, and then the users pay for that just like a mortgage on your home over a period of time, in a reasonable way. But we do plan, and sometimes things, go exactly like we planned, and sometimes you do, like life in general. Life happens, and you do have to readjust and say, okay, how do we meet the challenges that have come up in the best possible way?
I know cost was a big part of that too, right? As a lot of projects began, then the pandemic comes along, and for a lot of complicated reasons we won't get into, suddenly the price of lumber starts going up.
Wow.
And this isn't just hitting the city, right? This is also hitting developers who have, private developers who have planned
Housing costs, I mean, everything.
Sure.
Yeah.
Are there any big projects, from private developers within the city that were completely paused or scrapped entirely because of costs?
And again, I don't really know this. Once a project goes through Planning Commission and gets approved and they have their permits, we don't really know the details of,
Sure.
whether they're moving forward or putting things on hold. But, I just know architects are telling us that, you see the inflation, which is the 9 to 14%, but that construction costs are going up like 30 to 40% in what they bid, a year, within a year or two, what they're coming out now.
A quick jump.
It is. It's huge. And,
purposes.
we do have contracts let on our Center Block Plaza, on our library, and, we're hoping those continue to go well, and that, and it's exciting to see those projects. If you've driven down Main Street, the steel on our new 3-story library is really going up quickly. They're getting that done. We had some delays on the concrete, but they were able to kind of pivot, and they had at least enough of the foundations in that they could start on the steel. And finally, the concrete that I think we talked about last time, the whole state was having a shortage in getting concrete because a batch plant had gone down, and our 100 West Bridge is probably a month behind schedule because they were waiting for concrete, and they couldn't take little batches. It had to be, at least for the deck of the bridge, one great big huge pour, and they just couldn't go on until they got, a big order of concrete. And when those big orders come, they have to have certain temperatures, so they have to get a variance to start really early in the morning, like sometimes 3 and 4 in the morning, in order to get that much concrete poured and formed and, done before it gets too hot during the day. And so we've given a couple of variances to our noise ordinance in order to, make that project and other private projects happen as well. So again, we appreciate the patience of neighbors if they're affected by that. And we ask the companies to let them know and explain why and tell them the duration of the variance. And but again, you can't do it in the middle of the winter. So
No, it has to be done now. And with concrete, you can't, on a bridge, something like that, you can't. You'd rather not have to replace that bridge a few years later, right? Because it is exciting to see. And you mentioned downtown. On the other side, maybe we can talk a little bit more about this. But I had another fun experience. I was on a part of this. I drove by, but they recently closed Center Street for a Utah Festival Opera event. Was it? I think just last week.
It was Monday. Yeah, last Monday. It was great.
Really cool to see all those people, and every time I see that, I think of what that's when I fully understand. I've had this opportunity to talk with you, for years now about the vision for downtown.
It has taken years.
It has, but it's finally you can see it now. You can see when you drive by and you see an event like that happening there on Center Street, and then you can see this vision actually playing out, even though it's not complete yet. It's close, but. You can actually see what the overall vision for downtown was, and it is exciting to see.
Thank you, and it was, and we were celebrating the opera was the Utah Festival Opera and Musical Theater had sponsored that festival and closed the street down and had activities, and it was celebrating 30 seasons with the Utah Festival Opera and Musical Theater, and they bring a lot to our economy.
Yeah.
They just give citizens a lot of opportunities to see, great shows in the summer, but again, a lot of people, helped, build that and make it happen, and certainly we recognize Michael Ballum and the others that have helped make that possible, and it's been possible because we had the beautiful Ellen Eccles Theater that, he and others, were instrumental in restoring, and the city bought that, way back, 30 years ago when there was a possibility it could be torn down, and now that it's restored and beautiful. And coming up, they're going to be celebrating the 100th anniversary of when it was built. Again, the restoration was just, we celebrated the 25th anniversary of the remodel 4 years ago, somewhere in there.
Wow, 100 years. That is.
So they'll have some really fun festivities coming up. And that was, my comment when I was on stage for the show with, when they closed Center Street, it's like, this is our historic theater district. We have 3 historic theaters plus the Dansant building right here within a block. What a resource. And
it really is.
And again, you look at the Tabernacle that's closed for 2 years because the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is investing significant money in a seismic upgrade to make sure that that historic building, which is beautiful and, kind of part of our downtown character,
sure,
that stays in good shape. And then we have the courthouse that was restored. And so again, we've had these great pieces. So many people come to town and say, you are lucky to have such a beautiful downtown.
It's
and it's
a unique
true.
Downtown.
And we are, and we've built on that. Again, we've just wanted to, again, with Center Street, we've kind of upgraded what was, kind of getting a little run down. And the
Sure.
same thing with the center block and those buildings there. We have some great pieces. So I know you're sick of me talking about it.
It excites me too. I've said many times, I'm not even a Logan resident, but just making Center Street this destination, I think, is just really cool to see. And it has that downtown feel. I love downtowns. When I travel, when I go to another city, I love to go to the downtown. And so now you look at Logan's downtown and you can see that. Right. You can see a person that might come in and stay in a hotel for the Festival Opera this weekend, and they're going to get to experience this downtown. And I that's very exciting to see. So.
And exactly, those tourists that come, the performers from the opera that come, we get so many comments that, wow, this is a beautiful place. And again, if people remember that they come, they pay taxes, they
Sure.
pay room tax, they pay restaurant
food.
tax, they help our economy, and then they go away and they don't stay.
That's right.
Here.
They don't wear on our roads for very long, and it is.
We're
an
all
economic
concerned about
engine.
growth, and again, everyone finds our community so beautiful that, one of the challenges that come with that is the growth. But as we know from the statistics that are coming out of the Ken Gardner Institute, which is, at the U of U, it's kind of chartered by the state legislature to provide data for them. I think, if I remember, 85% of the growth is coming internally. So it's our children, our grandchildren. People want to say, oh, it's those darn Californians, keep them away. But honestly, the majority of it is, do you want a place for, that your children and grandchildren could afford to buy a house and, live and stay here? And
or when they turn 18, do you want to tell them they have to go elsewhere? I mean, those are literally the two choices, right?
And right now we seem to have the jobs. We've got plenty of jobs.
For sure. In fact, the city's still looking for parks help, right? Still some openings there?
We finally managed to get some people, but I just met with Russ Aquina this afternoon before I came here, and he said, now some of our part-time workers are already saying, well, I'm going to quit now because I want to go on vacation before school starts. And, school starts for some of, at least the high school kids, like middle of August, and then the university not far after. So we actually did, for a brief time, kind of get to our full staffing, and we appreciated those people, but now they're starting to go off to other pursuits. And
sure. That's
so
it's a challenge for every city, and part of it is good, which is, as you mentioned, we have all these jobs, all these openings, but it has presented a challenge for even in at the south end of the valley, some of the small cities there, Nibley, Hiram, and Providence, they've had trouble with just keeping the staff to keep the parks going. A good reminder, I think, sometimes in how important the work of the city is. But it really is, exciting to see all of this. And in fact, on the other side of the news, I would love to ask you this, and I'll say it now so you can be pondering it. But for some reason, I was thinking it was longer than this. My brain, elections have so warped my brain. It feels like the municipal elections were so long ago. They weren't. So you're 6 months into your second term. A lot happening, a lot near completion, a lot has finally started after, in some cases, decades of discussion and debate over a plan. And it would, I think, be fun to just kind of, a little retrospective, kind of recap some of this, because it is really a lot, and people are seeing that. But again, some of this has been decades in the works. So If you have a comment or a question as well, we did have a listener with a comment about student parking for student housing. We'll get to that on the other side of the news as well. But please join us, 753-5868. We'll be back with Speak to the Mayor and our guest in studio here this hour, Logan City Mayor Holly Daines, after this look at the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 4:30, and the news is brought to you by Whole Tree Care. Mayor Lindsay Peterson of North Logan stood on the north side of the city's library to announce plans for a library addition with new city offices and a community center at a groundbreaking ceremony that was held midday Monday. The Deloy Hansen Family Foundation donated $2 million for the new city building, and the James P. Thorne Endowment, sponsored by the Hansen family, will increase its annual contribution to cover a bond supporting the core cost of the library expansion. Peterson said the city has the highest recreation program of utilization in the valley. The city office and expansion of the library will be about 18,000 square feet at a cost of $6.1 million, and the 20,000 square foot community center is estimated to cost in the neighborhood of $8 million. North Logan claims to have the longest running and most widely attended Pioneer celebration in the valley, and the library is filled with a robust array of programming. The mayor said as a city they are ecstatic that they will be able to build the new city offices without raising taxes or issuing a bond that will indebt the city. The current city offices are in a converted hotel and do not meet the needs of a growing community of 11,000 residents. All four of Utah's representatives to the Utah House voted for legislation Tuesday that would protect same-sex marriage under the law. The Respect for Marriage Act ultimately passed in a 267 to 157 bipartisan vote and comes as lawmakers anticipate the Supreme Court overturning its 2015 ruling. According to Kevin Randall, a spokesperson for the Utah Pride Center, he said he's getting married in 2 months to his partner of 4.5 years. And when they learned that the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, and in there was a little sentence saying that marriage equality could be included, including question and debate, he said it was heartbreaking. In a statement, Representative John Curtis said the majority opinion of the Supreme Court clearly stated that the court has no intention of reversing any decisions respecting the right to marriage in the Constitution. That said, he said he also understands how important codifying these protections are to many Utahns. He says he does not believe the federal government should infringe upon an individual's decision about who they wish to marry. And state election officials are urging their colleagues around the U.S. to be open and transparent in confronting conspiracy theories and false information about how voting works. The advice from election administrators from Georgia, Ohio, and Utah came today during a meeting of the National Association of State Election Directors. The group was meeting in Wisconsin, a state that continues to be a target of attempts by former President Trump and his supporters to decertify the 2020 election. KVNU News Time is 4:33.
Men, sometimes women drop subtle hints like,
Honey, we've been driving for a while. Are you hungry?
Nah, I'm good. What's wrong? Are you crying?
I'm starving and you won't let me eat.
Women can speak a different language. So here's a hint, guys. Call Hull Tree Care to trim and shape your overgrown trees and shrubs. Your yard will look amazing. Your trees will be healthier. And your wife? Well, take her out to eat, okay? Hull Tree Care. That's Hull Tree Care. 760-6587.
KVNU weather, mostly clear tonight, low around 60, sunny, hot, upper 90s on Thursday, and the same for Friday. It's been to 92. Right now it's 91 at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology, Cache Valley's most trusted name in hearing aid technology. Call Dr. Paul Daines at 753-HEAR or visit cachehearing.com. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com. Let's check Wall Street now with Edward Jones.
This is Cheryl, bringing you the daily financial market report on behalf of financial advisor Jeff Olson and Edward Jones. Stocks finished sharply higher today, following yesterday's big rally on positive earning results and news that neutral gas flow is resuming through the European Nord Stream pipe from Russia to the rest of Europe. Although the two-day rally is encouraging, we expect volatility to continue throughout this earnings season as results point to changing underlying economic conditions. U.S. equities closed higher today. The Dow closed at 48 points at 31,875. The NASDAQ closed up 185 points at 11,898. The S&P 500 closed up 23 points at 3,960. And in the bond market, 10-year Treasury yields are trading at 3.03%, higher by 0.01 percentage points. In stocks of local interest, Nucor was up 0.52 to 117.75. Thermo Fisher was up 1.78 to 585.65. Wells Fargo was down 0.18 to 42.72. Chevron was up 1.91 to 146.52. Procter & Gamble was down 2.49 to 141.55. Autoliv was up 0.15 to 80.02. Northrop Grumman was down 1.32 to 456.07. Amazon was up 4.56 to 122.77. This has been today's financial market report, brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, member SIPC, and financial advisor Jeff Olson, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice at 580 North Main in Logan. If you would like additional information, please contact our branch office at 435-787-8170. Daily commentary is also located on our website at edwardjones.com.
Who do you turn to if you want to change out your wood or pellet stove? Advanced Fireplace and Stove. They were voted the gold medalist for Best of Northern Utah for the second year in a row in the fireplace retrofit category. Be ready when the government's next wood and pellet replacement incentives pop up. Advanced Fireplace can help you navigate the paperwork. For more information, call Advanced Fireplace and Stove, 752-7272. Online, advancedfireplaceandstove.com.
Hey everyone, this is your 2022 Cache County Fair and Rodeo Princess Taya Hess. Come out August 10th through the 13th to see why our rodeo has won the Best of Northern Utah the past 2 years. Friday night is tough enough to wear pink night, so wear your pink in support of breast cancer awareness. Get your tickets at IFA or the Cache County Event Center before we sell out. We're going to have a blast, so I hope to see you August 10th through the 13th at the Cache County Fair and Rodeo.
So come on out, let's have some fun at the Cache County Fair.
The 1965 Ford Cobra has a small block V8, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. The Brooklyn Dodgers won the 1952 World Series. The average accordion has 41 keys and 120 bass buttons. My anniversary is...
If you don't remember your anniversary, it doesn't matter what you do remember. The Anniversary Inn in Logan has dozens of themed and luxury suites. Call today or visit them online at anniversaryinn.com.
Plan your escape where romance awaits. The Anniversary Inn.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Logan City Mayor Holly Daines here in the studio with us. You just speak to the mayor. If you have a question or comment, 753-5868, or shoot them in through the KVNU FTP chat on Google Chat. And join us. I'd set this up a bit before the break so you had some time to ponder it, because I know I like to do this. I know it's an awkward situation, but Logan City has been fascinating to me. Not a resident of Logan, but a resident of the Valley. I spent a lot of time in Logan, both in my throughout my work day at the day job, but also for entertainment. For Charlie and I run into each other at the theater sometimes in downtown. It's been really fun for me to see. I love downtowns. When I travel, as I mentioned before the news, that's the first place I like to head if I can, to a downtown. And it's really fun for me to see Logan City's downtown becoming more of at least what I think of when I think a downtown in a city. As I think about it, I realize that's just one of many things that throughout my time here on the show, which goes back 14 years now, that have been just sort of staple discussions. Whenever we're talking about Logan City, whether it was with mayor or council member, there were certain issues that you just knew people were going to ask about and talk about. Many of them are underway, nearing completion, or have just begun and will be completed in the next year or two. And I'm curious how that feels in your situation. Many of these things that you're working on here as mayor began while you're on the city council as just an idea or a seed, and now here you are, ushering these things into actual reality. It is exciting to see. It's a long list, though.
It is, and as you mentioned, when you're in a spot like this, you realize that it's a team effort and that you build on foundations that others may have put in place.
Sure, makes sense.
Future, former, or staff members that tend to be the long-term, cog in the wheel that go through various political administrations. And again, just sometimes plans take a long time to be able to set aside the money and develop them fully. But we've worked really hard to sort of bring some of these to fruition. And certainly, the library is one that, as you mentioned, has been talked about for a long time. And again, a lot of people worked on it. And we've been setting money aside in that fund to help pay for it. And we were able to come up with some creative ways to get there. Again, borrowing some money from some funds that can be paid back over a longer period of time, and some private donations. So
a lot of private donations. What was the final dollar amount? Do you have that on the top of your head?
$2,300,000.
That was. I was really excited to see that. That's a lot of money from private donations.
Yeah. So let's see. Sorry, the library was $1.3 million. Center block was $2.2. I flipped those.
Honestly, it's amazing to see private residents stepping up like that, and
it's true, and investing in our community in a way that they just feel like will benefit members of the community. So those have been great success stories. Again, I think and we build on partnerships. Center Street, we had the merchants that were willing to participate and enter into a special assessment area to contribute some of the money to redo that street. Logan City did a big chunk, and then again, Mark Anderson, who's on our city council, has organized all the owners into their own private voluntary kind of assessment area, and they are now paying for the flowers and the maintenance, and they do some snow removal together, and they see the value in creating a place that people enjoy to come to, and that it improves their businesses, and they're willing to invest in that. So
sure.
And again, the archway was something that we did with private donations. We thought, well, it is an extra. It helps create a sense of place, but do you spend taxpayer money on, kind of the niceties? We certainly did it on the water and sewer infrastructure under the street and the curb and gutter and sidewalks. But
sure.
Again, we were able to raise some private money for that, and now hope to tie that into Center Block. And
it does add a lot, I think.
Yeah, work on our mid-block walkway that's been part of the downtown specific plan, which called out for some of these things like a gathering place and mid-block walkway. And again, these are plans that have been in place for a while, and we're fortunate to be able to implement those. And again, kudos to the city council, and we've tried to communicate and work together, and again, we have a shared vision, and so they're willing to approve the funding, which is necessary to make things happen. And we've hopefully done good things that will, create benefits for our citizens for a long time to come.
Sure. That's, like in business, oftentimes there is that ROI, as it's referred to in business, return on investment. It's a little more fluid when you're talking city planning and investment, right? You can't say, we're going to spend X amount, it'll take this many years to complete, and then it will generate this much business revenue or economic activity. But you also can make decisions saying, look, we know this is where things are headed. We know. And that's what, when I look at this list that you've written there just during the news break of things started, completed, near completion in your term in 6 months so far, that's all of this fits with a broader picture, right? A plan for this area in general and what Logan City wants it to be.
Right. And I guess one reason, when I ran for my first term as mayor, I didn't have any decision in the back of my head about, I'm going to do two terms, or, how long will this take? I really kind of thought, well, one term will be good, and, that's good for public service. But there were a lot of these projects that, again, we had worked so hard on, and they were getting close to maturing. But I thought, if the voters, decide that, I would really like to kind of see these through, and I'm sure new things will come up. But I just appreciate the voters' confidence in terms of giving us a chance to finish a lot of these plans. And,
Sure.
We tried to balance things like road projects. And you mentioned 100 West Bridge, which I think will, improve traffic flow, help, the Main Street issue. But
I don't think people appreciate how big of a deal that's going to be. I admit, I'm saying this from someone who's traditionally traveling from the south end of the valley into Logan, but that is going to be huge when it's completed.
We think so. We think that will be helpful. Again, we're planning a new traffic signal eventually at 100 West and 300 South, because as that corridor gets busy, we think that will be important.
Sure.
But we also have been, in addition to the roads, we try and balance that with, trails. And we've talked about on this show before the pedestrian underpass under Main Street that will happen once we get the 100 West Bridge done, and cul-de-sac 6 South. We got that big grant from UDOT because we never could have afforded to do that on our own. We can provide some matching funds, and just some of our other trails that we've been able to provide. And, the conservation easement of, that Kunzler conservation easement that we worked hard to get on the north side of the Logan River from 10th West to Trapper Park. And we just got a RAPS grant to, put a bridge over Trapper Park, which then the next step would be, eventually then you can start working on the trail on the other side. And, these projects will take, years to mature by the time you get, the funding. We have a couple of new parks that we had the concept plan, and now we're using some of our impact fees to pay for actual construction drawings. So, again, we've talked about the property around the landfill that was the protection zone.
Yeah.
Now that we're starting to close the landfill, next year our plan is to apply for a Utah Outdoor Recreation Grant to turn the landfill hills into a bike park. I mean, if we get the grant and could do that, wouldn't that be cool? And, there's other space down there. We're working, first of all, on a neighborhood park for those Woodruff neighbors that live west of 10th West, because, that is a bit of a barrier, and it'd be nice to have a neighborhood park their children can walk to and bike to.
And that's a growing area as well, right?
It is. We've had a lot of homes. So, again, it makes sense to spend the impact fees there. Also trying to keep some open space up above Lundstrom Park. We sold some of the lots for more housing because we certainly need more housing opportunities in Logan. But there's a big open space there that we'll kind of keep as a natural area. But it still costs money to develop, those trails and the infrastructure that you need to have that. So again, that one will also start into the actual construction drawing process, because once you really have to have those plans to know how much they'll cost, and then the next step is to try and figure out where you can get the budget or augment that with grants to try and make those happen. So those are some exciting things as well. And
it's a lot going on, and the timeline too leaves an interesting opportunity as far as, speaking of, the terms of a mayor, the timeline on a lot of this, you may get that last year and a half or 9 months where you can look at all this and say, these projects, they're finished. Is there anything that you're thinking has to be on the next list? I know a lot of this isn't really decided just by city government. The residents weigh in. Sometimes necessity weighs in and says this has to happen and takes priority. But is there one more thing or two more things that are just...
Well, there are a couple of things on the radar, and one is the fire station, which, again, we're moving ahead with. We are waiting for the bids to come back, and we're a little nervous about that one because we had some money set aside for that, again, using some of the ARP, the American Rescue Plan funds, allowed us to, move that a little further forward than we would have been able to do otherwise. But, if the costs are really going to be 30-40% higher than we planned,
and yet still
still a need.
very
we
necessary
really
thing.
have to do that. Again, the roof over the service center is another one that seismically we just have concerns about. So we're looking at our options there and trying to figure out, there are always needs. And again, I think as a team, our city council, our department heads, our executive staff, myself, we've worked well together to try and say, okay, what's the priority? Okay, we have to do this now, and then this will come next. And again, I think we've tried to do a good job at looking at the overall city, seeing the needs across the city in every neighborhood, and address those in a reasonable and rational way.
It's the comments and feedback we get from listeners. In fact, one here, we did touch on it already, but a listener had sent a message that said, I love what's happening in downtown, but I'm most excited about the I'm assuming they're referring to the conservation easement, the land that's been set aside for conservation near Logan River. This will impact my neighborhood and my family so directly, including our options to get outside, enjoy the trails, and not have to cross a busy road to do so. That seems...
Thank you.
It does. I mean, you think about it, that's one of those things that can seem trivial almost or not, but that's not. That's a huge deal to those families.
Right? And I appreciate that they noticed that and were willing to, to acknowledge that and say they appreciate it. So thanks to whoever responded.
That's, I wish I had a name because I'd love to call them and get more info, but that to me is really great to see, because that's where it really kind of hits the kitchen table for a lot of families, and fun to see this kind of feedback.
And again, with all of our growth, we can't lose sight of, our quality of life. Those are the issues that, we do need jobs and we need roads, and those things do, if you're stuck in traffic all day, that does affect your quality of life. But
sure,
again, the outdoor, and, it sounds like I'm just pleased that the county council is considering whether or not they put this open space ballot initiative on the ballot, because again, it would allow the citizens to decide, is this something that's important enough to us that we're willing to pay additional taxes? Because as our growth happens, if we don't preserve some of those spaces, they're going to fill in and they will be lost to our kids and grandkids. And
they can't really be clawed back.
Exactly.
Once the open space is gone, that... For listeners, a fascinating interview we did a couple of months ago with former State Representative Jack Draxler on that ballot question and going before the county with that. It's in our podcast feed if you want to listen to that, but a really, really good idea, I think. What do you think? 753-5868. Logan City Mayor Holly Daines, our guest here in the studio. Please join us if you have a question or a comment here on Speak to the Mayor, and we'll be back right after this.
I'm Larry Gelwicks, the getaway guru for Princess Cruises and Morris Columbus Travel, with an exclusive blockbuster cruise deal. Get up to $400 per cabin, free spending money, plus cruise discounts up to 40% off, kids sail free, free drinks, free Wi-Fi, and free prepaid gratuities on select Princess Cruises to Hawaii, Mexico, the Panama Canal, and the Caribbean. For details, call Morris Columbus Travel.
Utah Festival Opera and Musical Theater is celebrating 30 years of music in the mountains in Logan. Join us July 6th through August 6th for dozens of musical theater performances, plus late-night cabarets, breakfast with the stars, academy classes, and more. Do not miss the chance to see a silent movie with live accompaniment by a professional theater organist on the mighty Wurlitzer organ. Professional performers are here from all over to bring you Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, Carmen, The Magic Flute, The Man of La Mancha, and She Loves Me. Buy your tickets at UtahFestival.org.
With rising gas prices, there's never been a better time than now to go electric. Come to Murdoch Volkswagen and see what all the hype is about when you test drive the new 2022 ID4. With a range of just under 300 miles, the ID4 has all the latest technology, including a digital dash, remote access, adaptive cruise, and blind spot monitoring. Come in and take a test drive and reserve your brand new electric ID4 today. When you walk through our doors, you feel like family. At Murdoch Volkswagen in Logan or online at murdochvw.com.
Call 866-628-3065 or see dealer for complete details. Offer expires 7/31/22.
You might ask yourself, when is the best time to start saving for retirement? The answer is simple. It's today. An Edward Jones financial advisor is here to help. They will work with you to build a plan for your ideal retirement by identifying your unique goals and help keep you on track to achieve them. The sooner you get started, the better. Call one of the 7 Edward Jones locations in Cache Valley to schedule an appointment today. Making sense of investing. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Just another 5 minutes with our guest here in the studio, Logan City Mayor Holly Daines, here for Speak to the Mayor, our monthly segment with the mayor. You're welcome to join us if you have a question. We have time for a call or two, 753-5868. This is, I know, we started talking a little about roads and road construction and all of that, but it was a question, just a general question we got from a listener after last month's segment. Listener said, there's a lot of talk and mandates, I'll add, from the state for cities to start developing, these master plans for this, for that. And roads are included in that, right? But it seems a little more complicated to me as I watch this play out because, you have private developers who are going to be, for other reasons, deciding where they develop or petitioning the city for a permit to develop here or there. And the city doesn't call those shots. But then the city has to say, okay, but now we're going to need a major route of travel here, or we're going to have to change this intersection into this type of intersection. And there is, as I understand it, kind of a master plan for that, right? Within the city.
We have a good group led by Jeff Gilbert. It's called the Cache Metropolitan Planning Organization, and also what they call the Council of Governments, or COG, which in the COG includes all the mayors in the valley. The CMPO is more the metro areas, the large, higher population areas. But we have regular meetings where we sit down, we update a master plan, we try and Jeff kind of guides us and tries to get input from our various cities on where the development is happening and how do we need to be adapting. Because sure, there's a 50-year plan, a transportation master plan that, several of it's all categorized according to prioritization and sure, then also depending on funding, some of it we say, well, this is kind of the wish list. There's not any funding planned for this, but there are, these are the top projects and the funding that we do get, some state and federal, and also through the transportation tax that the county council passed a few years ago. So, there really is really good structure, discussion among the different entities in the valley. So I feel like we are doing a good job at trying to plan and be proactive to deal with some of this growth.
It's so complex, and then it always evolving too. And a simple example, Logan City, based on resident feedback, could build this amazing stretch of road that's just so great for all the residents. But then it just comes out, into a cul-de-sac in Nibley or something. So you can't have that happen. It requires all this coordination. And it's just, to me, it's fascinating to watch that play out.
And you also have to remember, 100 West will be great for the traveling public, but for those people that live there, it's not going to be so great because it will increase traffic. Right? And, you always weigh those decisions and agonize about some of those. And again, you have to look at the big picture, but you realize that in the little picture, it's not so great for some people. And that's not the fun part of the job.
I thought about that. I'm excited about that bridge being completed, about that additional, alternate route for certain trips I make. Selfishly, I'm excited. But yeah, you drive past a lot of those homes, and growing up, that was always as my mom would take us to Willow Park a lot, and that turn, that T intersection that will go away. There was a part of me that's like, that intersection, that was the Willow Park turn. And so you run into that too. There's nostalgia. There's, and human nature to resist change, I think. But you've said it before here on the show, if it's done responsibly and carefully, then the impact is at least reduced, right?
We do try and mitigate it. And again, at some point, that's part of your job as an elected official, is to try and make the best decisions for the biggest group you can.
All right. Fascinating discussion. I appreciate you taking an hour out of your day for this each month, because, and for listeners, to have this unscripted and unplanned conversation, you really get a window into city government, to decisions. So I appreciate all of our listeners who have sent questions in over the years, not just today. And please join us next month. Logan City Mayor Holly Daines will be back with us in a month. If you have a question we didn't get to today, you can save it for then. You can also reach out to the city, including the mayor, anytime via the contact information at loganutah.org. And we'll be back with hour 2 of today's show right after this here on KVNU Logan.
Talk about it.
This nation belongs to all of us.
News Talk KVNU Logan, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.